Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Thank you.
Missing your chair.
What's that?
Are you missing your chair?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Being problematic.
I can step in. Vice chair.
Shadowy figure walking up on
All right, go ahead and call this January 12th RCC meeting to order. Appointment of timekeeper. Ron, would you be able to be the timekeeper tonight? Thank you. Public appearances on non-agenda items. We do have one. Welcome, Sue. Yesterday.
Where should I
Yeah.
sit?
You can come up and sit in the chair right there.
I'm Sue Easterday. I am a member of the Parks Commission, but these are not comments specifically related to Parks Commission. First, to say how much I enjoy the articles that are in the Fitchburg Star for all these years. And did you write the most recent one?
No.
Oh, okay.
Diane.
Just read that this afternoon after finding the paper and everything else on the countertop. But the main reason I'm here is to mention that some people in the community have formed a nonprofit called Friends of Fitchburg Parks and Natural Areas. And most people on this committee have an interest in such things. And we've really just gotten started. We have all our federal and state verifications or documentation. We have banking capability. Just getting rolling, doing social media.
You are officially a C3 right now.
Yes, we are, absolutely. And one of the things we want to be sure to do is never undertake or get people excited about doing a project if the city staff, if it's gonna put a new burden on them or an undue burden on them. There are a lot of people that help in the parks now. And so there's plenty of things we could do if we have more volunteers and more volunteer days to do more in areas that are already being worked on. But that doesn't mean that if people don't know of something that in an area of the city that they enjoy, that they think they might want to undertake a project, cleanup or pulling out invasive weeds or trying to get some better things growing. invasive shrubs, et cetera, et cetera. And I know this committee has had meetings open to the public at McGaw Park in the past, educating the city about invasive shrubs, and we're sort of partway into cleaning that out. So I just wanted to let you all know about it, and
what's the mission of the Friends Fitchburg Park?
well, so how do I summarize what I just said? It's really to support natural areas in the parks,
Okay.
Clean out invasives, foster growth of natural native plants, try to help educate the public, coordinate volunteers when we can.
Okay.
All of those things. Certainly, fundraising is helpful. There are some grants available that Anna has said she could apply for if there was a 501c3 to channel it to.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just come across one not long ago on a state website, and it's small, but it was about establishing a new trail. So if we cleaned out the rest of McGaw Woods and established new appropriate trails, maybe we could get some money. So there's more unknowns than knowns. So most people, you can figure out how to contact me, or I'm gonna stay for the whole meeting. If anyone wants my contact info, I can give it to you. Or just if you hear of other people complaining about or wanting to volunteer or complaining about parks or wanting to do something for parks, you can just send them my way. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
You might,
Thanks so much.
yeah. Hey, Sue, you might look at the DNR grant, Healthy Lakes, Healthy Rivers.
Okay.
They provide grants to homeowners that are within a certain distance from a stream or a tributary or a lake. So Lake Wabisa Conservation Association has actually got 3 grants for that. So, and it's helping homeowners with native vegetation in their yards.
Perfect.
So something to check out.
I will. Thank you.
Huh?
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, item number 3, approval of the minutes. So our last meeting was on November 10th. Do I have a motion to approve the draft minutes from November 10th?
I make a motion to approve the November 10th BD committee minutes.
I'll
Sure.
second.
Okay, Kim seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the minutes are passed. Moving on to agenda items for new business for this meeting. Agenda item 4A, Swan Creek Monitoring Station update. Todd.
Great, thank you. Ben's gonna get my presentation up and rolling here in a second.
You can introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Todd Suntebeck. I'm a scientist with the U.S. Geological Survey here in Madison, Wisconsin. I am the project lead for the Swan Creek monitoring station, as well as a larger effort that we do here in Dane County. So my talk today is to explain what we're doing in Swan Creek, why we're doing it in Swan Creek, what we're learning from the data we've collected over the past 3 years in Swan Creek, and then also kind of pull back a little bit and look at the larger Yahara River watershed and show you some of the efforts that are happening out there and what some of those longer term data are showing. So obviously what's happening here is very relevant to what's happening in the rest of the watershed and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. I might point out to the other members that the city has a cooperative agreement with USGS in maintaining the station.
Yep,
So
yep, I'll bring that up in just one second. Just a little bit of background on the station at Swan Creek. Back in 2018, the University of Wisconsin-Madison Water Resources Management Practicum took place, and as part of their final report, they recommended that a long-term monitoring station be installed on Swan Creek. And so there are a number of entities that got together to discuss this, and eventually, go ahead there, Ben. Eventually in 2021, we got an agreement together with the city of Fitchburg. Some dollars were chipped in as well by the Friends of Wabisa Wetlands to do some of the sample analysis. And so we started monitoring back in May. The image on the left there is the larger Yahara River watershed. I'll get into what all those dots mean in a little bit, but you can see our Swan Creek there with the red square around it. And then zooming in on the lower right-hand side, it's a little difficult to see, but there's blue outlines for the watersheds delineating both Swan Creek on the north side and then Murphy's Creek on the south side. And the shaded green areas on the right-hand side of that image, of course, represent the prized Wapisa wetlands. And so putting the pieces together with the urbanization that is planned to happen in the Swan Creek watershed over time, those are the hatched areas up there, there's concern that that future development might impact the wetlands. And so, next. And so the purpose of our monitoring here is to establish what's happening right now. What does the water quality look like at this point in time? Continue to do this into the future to track how water quality changes over time. And then basically do exactly what I'm doing here tonight, is to share this information to help guide land management decisions for the preservation and protection of valued resources. So the rest of the talk is going to be pretty data heavy. There's lots of charts and graphs and images, and I'll do my best to describe them. Just know that I'm certainly willing to share this presentation with the city if they want to put it on their website or whatever you prefer to do. So if people want to kind of study it later at their own leisure and then ask questions, I'm certainly available.
So I presume you're working with CARPC then?
Well, we're working with CARPC on other projects, yes, but not specifically this one.
Okay.
Yep. So our funding agreement is strictly with the city of Fitchburg right now. CARPC is not involved. They were involved initially to help basically bring all the partners together and also to try to convince folks that this was a project worth doing.
So the data we get from the Swan Creek monitoring station is not going to inform land use in that hatched area we saw earlier?
It can be. It's not going to be me.
Okay.
It's going to be people like you and CARPC and other folks that have to make the decisions on what's happening out in the watershed. Yeah. It's my data to collect it and report it. Okay. You guys have to use it in the best way you see fit. So, real briefly, we have stream flow data out there, and the image on the upper right-hand side is a snapshot of our water level data out at Swan Creek over the last 10 days or so. So we had a couple of rain events, and so we see a response in the stream. We have rainfall data, although those are only going to be available through water year 25. I'll talk about what a water year is in a second here. We have conductivity and water temperature data that's continuous every 15 minutes. We have lots and lots of discrete sample concentrations. And then finally, we have daily loads and concentrations of the analytes listed up there. Phosphorus is the big one that most people are interested in. But for this particular situation, I think the chloride concentration and loads are of particular importance to sensitive wetland species, because messing up the chloride balance can really mess up the interchange between nutrients and taken up by wetland plants. All right, what's next here? I don't even remember here. Okay, so there's two larger pieces of what we do out there. One is a stream flow component, the other is a water quality component. And one of the important things that we're trying to get to is loads, so pounds of phosphorus or pounds of chloride or pounds of nitrate. And in order to get to those answers, we need to have these two pieces, stream flow or discharge and water quality. So let's start with discharge. Our technicians go out to the site a number of times per year, both during low flow conditions and during storm flow runoff periods, and they make discharge measurements. So during higher flow periods like we see here, we have an acoustic Doppler profiler device that we drag across the stream. We do that a number of times, and then at the end of it, we get a pretty image that, Ben, if you want to go to the next slide here, might look something like this. So this is the stream velocity in cross section.
For this particular image, when you start getting warmer colors, the reds and the oranges and the yellows, that represents higher velocity. The cooler colors are lower velocity. During low flow periods, we'll have a different measuring device, but the bottom line is we're trying to understand what the flow is, typically in cubic feet per second at that given instant in time. And the reason we're doing this is we're trying to develop a relationship between the water level and the discharge, because we can't continuously measure discharge. We can continuously measure gauge height, and that's what we do. So we collect water level or gauge height data every 15 minutes during non-flow or non-runoff periods and every 5 minutes during storm flow periods. Next. So that image up there represents a single discharge measurement on what we are putting together as a rating curve. So this is a theoretical rating curve on the lower left. Every dot on there represents a discharge measurement. And so a rating curve is simply a relationship between stream flow and water level. And this relationship is what helps us generate a continuous record of discharge. Now, it's not static at all. This relationship changes continuously over time. When you get more weeds in the channel, it shifts. When you get ice in the channel, it shifts the other direction. You might see channel scour after a large runoff event, or you might see a fill event after that, or you might see stream bank erosion out there. All of these things mean that we have to continuously go out there over time and make tweaks to this relationship and shift it over time in order to have accurate discharge data.
Does that rating curve reflect Swan Creek?
This is not. This is just a theoretical
say
one.
10,000.
Yeah. No, the one for Swan Creek is, it's a lot noisier and messier. There's got a lot more information on it, so I wanted to keep with the basics there.
I do want to point out that's a log scale.
Yeah.
So every inch or whatever is a power of 10 there.
Mm-hmm. Swan Creek, by the way, I think our maximum flow that we've ever measured there is about 100 CFS, so much less than that. So that was the discharge piece. The other piece is the water quality sampling piece. This is a peek inside what are actual gauges out there on Swan Creek. Bunch of high-tech instrumentation in there, communication equipment, but on the left-hand side there, that large gray box is essentially a refrigerator. And on top of that refrigerator is a pump unit, and that's connected to our data logger. And when the water levels start to increase, the data logger tells the sampler to pump samples. So our image on the upper right there is just a theoretical hydrograph representing stream flow over time or water level over time, and the red squares represent when samples may have been taken. The image on the bottom right is what happens when it runs off and you get a bunch of samples and you go pick them up and you line them all up. And those samples are actually from Swan Creek. So that is a really good representation of what happens over a runoff event. We typically see higher concentrations during the increasing flow period, and then we start to see decreases in concentrations over time. So our job then is to try to stay within budget. We submit roughly between 80 and 120 samples per year, and all of our samples for analysis go to the State Lab of Hygiene. The City of Fitchburg pays for those analyses directly. And we're looking for total phosphorus, orthophosphorus, which is a version of dissolved phosphorus, total suspended solids, nitrate nitrogen, and then chloride. And then finally, at the end of the year, when our technicians have gone through and approved all of the stream flow data and we've gotten all of our concentration data back from the lab, we combine them together in an in-house program that we use called G-Class. We put in estimates where it is necessary, and this is not Swan Creek here, this is just, I don't even know what station this is, it might be a Hare River at Windsor. But it shows, the red line there is discharge, and all the other blue and all the other dots on there is all the other variability and concentrations that are happening for this particular analyte, which is phosphorus, over an entire year. We hit the compute button, and then next slide. We basically generate daily loads in pounds or tons, depending upon what the analyte is, and concentrations for the entire year. So that is a very, very brief description of our workflow at that site. Let's go into what the data shows. I think that's the next slide at least. There we go. So this is a daily discharge plot of stream flow for one water year 24. We operate in water years which go from October 1st through September 30th. So this particular plot is October 1 of 2023 through September 30th of 2024. Normally this time of year, I would be showing you water year 2025 data. But the federal shutdown, which affected us, has really put us on the back foot, and so we're a little bit behind, but I can guarantee that we're working up the water year 25 data as we speak, and I can share it whenever it becomes available. But nonetheless, this is this is a hydrograph, so this is discharge over time. What we can see there is at the beginning of the water year in October through April or so, it's very quiet. There's not a lot happening out as far as runoff is concerned. What we're seeing in the stream is base flow, which is essentially groundwater discharging into the stream. And then finally in April and throughout the rest of the summer there, we start to see those spikes. Those are the results of rainfall and runoff in the stream. And one thing we don't see on this image here is in the period between January and April, there's typically a significant snowmelt event that typically happens around here. And in 2024, it did not happen. And that has been, the last 4 or 5 years, the snowmelt period has been very benign. And that's an important observation because, historically speaking, if you look back at the Erie River watershed, all the way back to 1990, in any given year, roughly 50% of the phosphorus load is delivered in those 3-month period between January and the beginning of April. Well, it didn't happen this year, and that typically results in phosphorus loads for the year that are below what we typically get.
Yeah, I think that corresponds with what people saw on Lake Wapisa in 2024, that the lake was really clear for a longer period of time.
Yep. We just did not get that loading in the springtime. So this is the same plot, but I've added a green line on there, and the axis is the secondary y-axis on the right-hand side. That is cumulative total phosphorus load in pounds. So we start the year with 0 pounds, and then for each ensuing year, we add on the additional pounds that we've computed. And so for this particular water year, we had roughly 1,400 pounds of phosphorus. Now, I know that probably doesn't mean anything to anybody in here. Later on in the talk, I'm going to try to put that in context with what that means with regard to what we see with other stream sites in the area. One of the things to note with that green line there is that when there's not a lot of storm flow runoff, the line is relatively flat or just goes up gradually. But when we have a storm flow runoff period, you'll see a spike or a big jump in that green line there. And what that's telling us is that phosphorus responds primarily to overland runoff created by snowmelt runoff or rainfall runoff. So next, and go back one again. So there's solids. Go back to phosphorus, please, Ben. I'm really throwing you for a loop here.
I think you should be able to use the left and right.
Yeah, left and right arrows work as well. What I tried to do there is basically demonstrate that the plot for phosphorus and suspended solids looks very similar. Just one to the right, there we go. Looks very similar. So they respond similarly. They're both related to each other. The scales are very different though, because concentrations of sediment are several orders of magnitude larger than phosphorus. And so instead of pounds on the right-hand side, we had about 130 tons of sediment. Next. Now for something completely different. This is nitrate. This responds totally different than those other analytes that we were looking at there. And what this is telling us is that nitrate is largely, it's basically independent of storm flow runoff. And as a matter of fact, during storm flow runoff periods, nitrate concentrations decrease significantly down to near zero concentrations because there's not a lot of nitrate in rainfall runoff. And what we're seeing is a large dilution of those concentrations in the stream. So this is typical of what we see of nitrate, and so therefore that is largely groundwater signatures that are being expressed in the stream right there. Next is chloride, and it looks somewhat similar to nitrate. I will go into chloride in a little bit here, but just know that chloride and nitrate at this day and time are acting relatively similarly
and very dissimilarly than phosphorus and sediment. And I just wanted to show you, I showed you an image earlier about how we generate loads of phosphorus and sediment. For chloride, we do something totally different. We know that generally we can get a very good relationship between chloride concentrations and what we're seeing here in that blue line is specific conductance or conductivity values. So instead what we're doing is we're trying to save a little bit of money by instead of submitting 80 to 120 samples of chloride per year, we can get away with submitting maybe 20 samples per year and creating a relationship between conductivity and chloride. And so you can see here, I've mentioned that nitrate concentration decreases during storm events. Well, so does conductivity, right? We're seeing this dilution of what's being expressed in base flow. Next. All right, here's the numbers for 2024. I just wanted to prove it to you that the data are there. And by the way, all of the data, everything that I'm talking about here today can be found on our website. It's all available online. We have recently switched how our website operates nationally. And it's somehow, to me, it's tricky to find all the information. So if you have a hankering to try to find the data and you can't find it, please email me, let me know what you're looking for, and I'll see if I can help you. Next slide. And so this is just a table of all of the elements that we're looking for here for 22, 23, and 24, and then the final column there is the average. And so putting this in your back pocket, if somebody were to ask you what the average phosphorus load was in Swan Creek, you would look at that last column there and you'd say, oh, well, that's about 1,000 pounds per year. Then you can sound really smart. We've had...
That's a lot of variability.
It's funny you should mention that. Variability is a key component to needing more time to understand trends over time. So that's something that's very limiting. I know Stephen Schooler was always wanting to know, what was going on, are we seeing improvements? And my answer is, we need a lot more time to see a trend because the year-to-year variability is so noisy. It's difficult to see that trend, in that noise.
The chloride, that's a lot, 223 tons.
Mm-hmm.
Is that groundwater and runoff?
It's mostly groundwater.
It's mostly groundwater, so it doesn't take in like the salting of the roads and
So
salting around here?
It does, and can you go back if you've been to one of the chlorides? One more, well, so there's a little, go back to the right, I'm sorry. See that spike there in late January, early February?
Yeah.
That is the signature of road salting, but it's not super prevalent at this point. Yeah.
How does like softened water play into that?
Well,
it all goes to MMSD.
Exactly.
They cannot remove the chloride, so I presume they
but
just...
effluent from MSD doesn't come into Swan Creek.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Badger Mill Creek, and then also
Badfish Creek.
Badfish as well.
What is, so there's total phosphorus and then there's dissolved phosphorus.
Yep.
What
I've
is
got a
it?
few slides coming
Okay.
up here. Yep. All right, so this is kind of one of the take-homes that I wanted for everybody here and everybody online, and that is to try to put Swan Creek in context with all of the other streams in Dane County that USGS has been monitoring for years. And I'm going to speak to that more specifically in a few slides, but Dorn Creek, 6 Mile Creek, Pheasant Branch Creek, and the Yahara River are all of the 4 major tributaries to Lake Mendota. We all know that Swan Creek drains into Lake Wabisa, and we know that Wabisa is highly influenced by the water quality coming down the Yahara River originating from Lake Mendota. So everything is kind of connected here and kind of related, but this is average annual discharge for the last 3 years only per unit area. So this is the way to normalize it.
Watershed?
Yep,
Okay.
watershed area, yep. So this isn't particularly useful or valuable. I just wanted to kind of show where Swan Creek measures up compared to the other streams. It's the next slide where things really start to take a change. This is total phosphorus per unit area. So again,
3 years of annual phosphorus loading data, 2022, 23, and 24, taking the average of that and dividing by the watershed area for each of these 5 basins. And you can see that Swan is significantly lower than all of the other sites. Pheasant is the lowest, and we're basically half of what Pheasant is. So that's good news for the city.
Could that be the result of the BMPs and things that have been implemented within the city?
I doubt it. I think it has more to do with the percentage of agriculture in each of the basins. The Dorans and the 6 Miles and the Harris are really super heavy in ag.
So that's the primary generator of phosphorus is the fertilizer used in agriculture.
Fertilizer and manures. Yeah,
Okay.
manure used as fertilizer is Dick Lathrop, who's been with DNR for a number of years, is kind of the guru of Lake Mendota. He wrote several papers. And basically it comes down to like 75% of the watershed contributing to Lake Mendota is in agriculture. And he estimated that roughly 75% of the phosphorus is coming from agriculture. So it's a land use thing. There's just more ag up there than anything else. This is the exact same slide, it's the exact same bar chart that I showed on the previous slide, except for I separated it into dissolved and particulate phosphorus. So the lighter colored is dissolved, the darker is particulate. So this is important for managers of watersheds. First of all, let's look at roughly half of the phosphorus that we see in any given year coming down our streams is in the dissolved form, half of it in the particulate form. So if you're a manager and you say, oh, I want to keep that phosphorus in the landscape, I don't want it to get into the stream or the lake, so we're going to trap it. Well, like there's sediment control basins and so forth. There's different ways to trap it, but trapping doesn't trap dissolved phosphorus very well. So you have to have realistic expectations on how much you can actually trap of the total phosphorus, because in most cases, a significant proportion of the phosphorus we're seeing is in the dissolved form. The other thing to note that phosphorus that is in a dissolved form is more readily available to biota in streams and lakes.
I would think Swan Creek would have a similar type land use as Pheasant Creek. I mean, it's residential, not that much agriculture, you got a large county park.
So Pheasant has a huge ag component just in the North Fork. The South Fork is mostly urbanized, so they're very different. I should have teased out both the North Fork and the South Fork there, because the concentration per unit area in the North Fork is just off the charts, whereas the urban area is quite a bit lower than that. All right, here's a spaghetti plot for you. Wisconsin has a total phosphorus standard for streams, both weightable and non-weightable. Swan Creek is weightable. The standard is 0.075 milligrams per liter. There's a metric for how that is measured. I pulled the data from the Rock River Coalition monitoring from 2015 through 2020, and then put the USGS monitoring data in there for after that. It's hard to see Swan in there, but it's the light blue color. And if you look really closely, you can see in general it's lower than most of the other stream sites in the Madison area, with the exception of the Hare River at Windsor, but it's still above the total phosphorus standard of 0.075 milligrams per liter. Doesn't mean the water quality is bad. It just means that, well, let's just say there are a lot of other things that contribute to good water quality besides total phosphorus concentration. Like substrate in the stream, for example, whether it's rocky or whether it's silted in. And overall, this isn't bad news, but it shows that there's room for improvement here.
Well, it kind of shows to me that there's overall a downward trend.
Sure looks that way, doesn't it?
Watersheds. Is that because of all the work that's being done?
So I can tell you the one that stands out the most is Dorn Creek at Highway M. Dorn Creek at Highway M is downstream from a giant wetland complex, and that's the one, the Suck the Muck, that's where they did the Suck the Muck. Phosphorus concentrations decreased significantly after they removed that sediment-laden, phosphorus-laden sediment. It's starting to rebound now, though. As you can see, it's kind of looking like everything else.
What do you think happened? Everybody took a downturn between 23 and 24 except for 6 Mile.
It's so, this is, so what we do is.
That's the variability.
It is, it's the median concentration of samples collected nearest the 15th of the month between May and October in any given year. And so the 15th of the month might be a storm flow period, it might be a base flow period, and we're taking the medians, so we're throwing out the highs and the lows. And the way that standard was derived was a study that we did years ago, back in the 1990s, I believe, throughout all of Wisconsin. And when you're throwing so if DNR wants a standard across the entire state, and you have data from hundreds of sites throughout the state, you have to basically do the best you can to come up with a standard, and that's where 075 landed. So, all right, nitrate. So nitrogen at Swan Creek is also lower compared to the other ones. We don't have any nitrate data over the last few years at Pheasant Branch Creek. And then it's from a lot of people are familiar with the 10 milligram per liter nitrate standard for drinking water. So these are box plots. The important thing on the left there is Dorn Creek. If you look at the X there, that represents the average concentration in Dorn Creek, which is about 5 milligrams per liter. Conversely, over on Dorn Creek, we're just over 2 milligrams per liter. That's a pretty doggone low nitrate concentration for an agricultural area. And this is suspended sediment. It's actually total suspended solids. There is a slight difference in the laboratory analysis technique for those two things, but they're basically, for all intents and purposes, identical here in Dane County. So Swan Creek is still on the low side, somewhat similar to Pheasant Branch. And chloride. There's not a lot of chloride monitoring happening in Dane County on the streams. There is a study going on right now by Hillary Dugan at UW Limnology Department. She has some equipment that's co-located with our USGS equipment, and she and her cohorts are collecting chloride concentrations out in the watershed at the Hara River and in Dorn Creek and various other areas. So I suspect in a few years she'll be coming out with a study that shows the loads of chloride coming from those tributary sites. But for comparison purposes, I pulled the data for the Spring Harbor Storm Sewer. Spring Harbor Storm Sewer drains about 3.3 square miles from Westtown Mall all the way up to Lake Mendota. Highly urbanized, and it also has a significant amount of very large privately owned parking lots in it. So that's important because if a parking lot is privately owned, you're contracting with Barnes or whatever to apply salt. Whereas if you're salting roads and you're the city of Madison and you're super cognizant of how much salt you're putting on the roads there. So I would say that Spring Harbor Storm Sewer is probably a worst case scenario. And those are tons per square mile. If you convert chloride to NaCl or table salt, Spring Harbor Storm Sewers, typically we're looking at 60 to 70 dump trucks of salt per year is what we're measuring at that site. Swan Creek well below that, but it should not surprise anybody that over time, as we see urbanization in the Swan Creek watershed, that number will likely start creeping up. So let's look at concentrations. I mentioned this is probably pretty important to the biota, especially in the Wapisa, the wetlands there on the left-hand side there's another fancy schmancy box plot. And there's two lines on there. The reddish brownish line is the acute toxicity level of 860 milligrams per liter. The chronic level is about 230. And so the median concentration in the storm sewer is well above the chronic level. So we definitely have an issue there. Swan Creek, the highest concentration we've measured is about 100 milligrams per liter, so quite low.
Is that toxicity with the Syria daphne or fathead minnow?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they derive that.
And that again was a log scale. So does the toxicity scale with the log or with the concentration?
Concentration.
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
Mainly it's on a log scale just because the concentrations can get so high and
Right.
the scale can look kind of weird. So.
So that was a deep dive, or a relatively deep dive into Swan Creek and what's happening here in the Swan Basin. I wanted to just step back a little bit and kind of show you what's happening in the Greater Yahara River watershed from a monitoring and a data collection perspective. Every dot that you see on that watershed map there shows a location where USGS is being contracted to collect stream flow, water quality, or both. And up on top of the basin in Lake Mendota there, you see purples and reds. That means we have a lot of monitoring going on up there. So we have stream flow and high intensity water quality monitoring. It's very similar to what we're doing in Swan. The Packer colors up there, you'll see, those are where we're doing stream flow and water levels. So Dane County uses those data to set the lake levels and the gate settings and all the dams. And I think everybody that lives in Dane County is aware of what's happening with water quality. We have issues, right? We've got the blue-green algae blooms. Phosphorus is the primary element that we're looking for that is causing most of the problems. And so we've been really keyed in on phosphorus for several decades now.
What does the green dot represent? What kind of data?
The green dot is, that's where we have our lake stage monitoring.
Have the what?
Lake stage monitoring.
Okay.
So yeah, the lake
HI,
levels.
okay.
Yep. Here's a data set coming from UW-Madison Limnology Department of concentrations of phosphorus in Lake Mendota going back to 1980. And you can see there's high ones and there's low ones in there. Ideally, we would like to see those concentrations super low because the lower the concentrations are, the less availability for uptake by algae and other critters. 1993 is a big peak year. If you were around the world back then, that's when the Mississippi River was going crazy. Levees were bursting left and right, and it rained here in Madison nonstop. 2008 and 2009, if you have a house on the lake, you were probably worried about your shoreline erosion. There was no wake zones in place from Mendota for sure. Those low concentration years are years in which droughts occurred. So 1988, for example, I remember that well. That was my first year of driving ducks in Wisconsin Dells, and I can tell you, nobody wanted to ride my duck. They all wanted to go to Noah's Ark and play in the water. It was so hot and dry that year. Another drought year in 2002 and 3, another one in 2011 and 12, and so forth. And the next slide just demonstrates, I just always want to demonstrate the linkages between the concentrations of phosphorus we see in a big body of water like Lake Mendota and what's coming into it from the tributaries. So the red dots on there are the annual loading data, total phosphorus loading coming from the Yahara River. So typically when you see a high red dot, you see an accompanying high blue dot. And the reverse is true as well. And typically, the lake doesn't respond as quickly to decreasing loading events as it does to increasing loading events. But I don't want to get into that. Just the purpose of this slide is to demonstrate that the landscape and runoff of phosphorus from the landscape is just intrinsically linked to what we see in the lake. So what happens in the landscape is important to the lake.
So this is, there's a lot of data here going back only, I'll say only, to 1980, showing that we've been eutrophic, for the last 4.5 decades. Do we have information going back further than that, like observational, on what the algae situation was like?
It used to be a lot worse. A lot worse.
But I presume before it was a lot worse, it was probably a lot better.
For sure.
And I'm wondering, do we have like that information, like going back to the original good times?
So here's a plot showing my best estimate based on some estimates and also direct measurements of the phosphorus load coming into Lake Mendota from the 4 main tributaries, dating back to 1990. The long-term average of that is roughly 60,000 pounds. UW-Madison wrote a paper and they estimated the pre-settlement concentration of phosphorus, or load of phosphorus coming into the lakes, was somewhere between 10 and 15,000 pounds per year, I think, pre-settlement. So this is pre-1840s. But also if we go back in time into the olden years, just know that sewage used to go directly into all of the lakes. It was an absolutely awful, terrible time period. I don't have any actual concentration, but I have anecdotal information that just, like you do not want to be anywhere near the Madison Lakes back in the, turn of the century and after that.
And I think where the Monona Terrace is, that used to be a landfill, right? Did that
think so.
contribute to phosphorus, or was that just like
Probably a
miscellaneous?
little bit, but probably not as much as the direct sewage effluent directly into the lakes that didn't fully get disconnected, by the way, until the 1970s.
Are they estimating pre-settlement phosphorus from sediment cores?
I think so, yeah. Yep. It's not zero, I can tell you that.
Yeah, sure.
Right? It's not zero. So a couple of things to demonstrate on this. As you pointed out, there's variability in the data. Is that because we're changing land use every year? Is it because farming is different every year? No. It's weather. Weather is the variable that is driving all of this particular phosphorus loading variability. What is the trend? The trend in the data is what you see right there with your eyes. If you wanna, if you're familiar with Excel, you would click on the dots, you would put a linear trend line through that data, and you would see what the long-term trend is. And you don't have to be a statistician to see that there's really not a trend there. So the observation here is that, and of course we all recognize that phosphorus has been identified as an issue over the years. We know that lots of money is being spent on urban and rural conservation efforts to reduce phosphorus coming into the lake. My statement here is that, unfortunately, that has not changed the phosphorus loading to the lake significantly over the last 30-some years. But there's good news in the next slide. I just want to also identify that the green line there is where we want to get. So Dick Lathrop and others have identified that those super dry years, there's usually about 30,000 pounds coming in. The water quality in the lakes is typically better. So if we can get that annual loading down to about half of what we typically see, we're going to be in a lot better shape. Incidentally, 4 out of the last 5 years have been at or below our target. So the weather has been really nice to us. Let's just say that. There's another way, a fancy statistical way that you can look at these data over time, and that's by doing a flow normalization. I don't want to get into this, but if we just sat here and said, look, if there wasn't runoff variability from year to year to year to year, what would the trend in phosphorus look like? That's what it would look like. It would show that we start out relatively high. There was a significant decrease between 2000 and 2010 for whatever reason, I do not know why, and then it's remained relatively flat since then. What this is demonstrating is that something made a change on the landscape. We're having a hard time detecting it in the real world, and the next slide will tell you why, but something changed out there. Is it conservation? Is it urbanization? Is it the way we farm? It could be a combination of all of the above, but we just don't have the data to really put that together just yet. And the reason is that we are fighting an uphill battle right now with Mother Nature. This is annual rainfall at the Madison Airport dating back to 1870. I don't know what happened in the 1880s, but man, oh man, there was a lot of rain back then. But if you exclude that period, was that Back to the Future 3? Did Marty McFly go back then? In effect, I don't know what he did, but one more click, please, Ben. So I can read it because I can't remember it. Over the past 150 years, excluding the 1880s, 9 of the 10 highest annual precip totals have occurred in the last 25 years. It's happening, and it's not just the annual totals. It's the intensity.
It's the way it's just, yeah.
It's the distribution, exactly. It's and like annual precipitation is not necessarily a great predictor of what happens in a given year, because that rainfall can be distributed really evenly throughout the year, or you can have 18 inches all happening in a week. And if that happens, you have a lot more runoff, a lot more phosphorus to deal with, the more concentrated it's together. One more slide. So there's rainfall.
Yeah, it seems like in the 1990s, things started to change.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people say like the 80s and 90s, there was a switch that appeared to have flipped. This is a stream flow trend data going back to one of the East Branch of the Pecatonic River is the top green one dating back to 1940. The bottom one is Spring Harbor Storm Sewer dating back to 1978. Black Earth Creek going back to the 1950s. All of them are showing significant increases in annual stream flow over time. Next slide. So where does that leave us? A lot of people have said, well, we're not seeing a trend, we're not seeing this decreasing trend in overall phosphorus loading to the lake, but we are spending a lot of effort on making sure that we stay on that treadmill, or we hold serve, or we tread water, right? If we had not done anything in the last 30 years, our water quality would be much, much worse than it is today. So although we've made a lot of progress on the landscape with both urban and rural conservation efforts, it has not been enough to be fully realized in the loading and in the lakes themselves. There's an interesting paper here by Adina Rissman and Eric Booth and others about shifting drivers, how nothing is static out there in the landscape. Everything is changing from precipitation to runoff patterns, urbanization. Agriculture does not stay the same, believe it or not. We are not farming the same way we did when we started monitoring back in the 1980s and 1990. We're doing things different. So all of this leads to variability and makes it more difficult to understand our long-term trends over time. The bottom line is if we really want to see a big difference in the phosphorus getting into the lake, we really have to take giant swings at it on our landscape. Or we have to come up with a giant umbrella. So, and I think that's all I have. Yeah, this is just kind of a summary slide here saying that we're still early in the discovery process with Swan Creek, but currently the water quality data look quite good, especially compared to other Dane County streams. Chloride concentrations are low. Oh, let's stay on that one. This was my extra slide that I always put at the end, just in case anybody wanted to know where the contributions are coming into Lake Mendota. This is a pie chart that I put together based on my estimate of direct deposition, some modeling from the Madison Urban Group, some unmeasured. But you can see that let's say you're a conservationist working in Dorn Creek and you want to squeeze every single phosphorus gram and you want to keep it from getting in the stream, and you say, we are doing a great job in Dorn Creek. Well, I got bad news for you, Jack. You're only covering about 10% of the annual phosphorus load getting into the lake. So it's ag areas, it's urban areas, it's everyone working together in all of these watersheds in order to really truly make a difference. So that's what I have for tonight.
Great.
I don't know how much time you have for questions or want. I think I'm a little bit over the time for questions.
You know, I mean, while we have it here, I think we want to do some questions. I want to check quick, make sure Linda's okay with 5 minutes of questions on this. I know we're here to listen. Okay, so I mean, we'll try to, you know, have a little bit of a time frame on it because we are a little bit over and we have another presentation coming up. But why don't we see what we can knock out in 5 minutes of people's questions if they have them.
Well, as long as we have a representative from the tree committee here, are there plants that could be established along the waterways to, you know, convert that phosphorus into lush greenery? And
I mean, riparian vegetation, I don't think it's necessarily in NRCS Conservation Handbook as one of their standard practices, but that is certainly something that could help. However, there's always unintended consequences of doing something like that, because if you have trees on the stream bank, then you have leaves, and then you have potential issues with erosion, and so it can be a vicious cycle. So, yeah.
And then, like I said, the leaf drop in the fall.
Yeah.
So I guess we stick to conifers.
Well, yeah, that might not hurt.
So Todd, one of the things I think we have as a goal for this year is considering another gauging station. And I think, Ben, was it 9 Springs that we were talking about? That's what the TMDL.
Murphy's Creek.
Yeah, Murphy's Creek, or, I mean, what would you think about that?
I think it'd be expensive.
Expensive?
It's expensive to do this monitoring. I sent out an email today. I think So I've been in the monitoring game for a long, long time, since the early 1990s. I haven't been leading the Dane County effort for that long, but the way I've monitored and generated loads has been the same ever since the 1990s, and that is to collect a bunch of samples, submit those samples to the lab, go basically point to point, extrapolating where needed and adding points, and then computing a load. I think we're reaching a point where costs are starting to become an issue. DNR is balking at the next agreement that we're trying to put together with CARPC because federal funding that had been such a staple of their organization is in jeopardy now. And so I think it's time to evaluate how we collect data and try to determine if there's ways that we can collect data and get the same information for a lower cost. So I'm trying to I'm organizing a meeting here in the next few weeks to talk about the potential to explore that. I'm sure everybody's gonna be like, yes, we wanna, because every analyte you see up there is basically $35 a sample. Total phosphorus 35, dissolved P 35, sediment 35, nitrate 35. So every sample that gets, so we're talking 10 to 15K just in sample analysis every year.
Not to mention the time involved and the
Yeah,
effort.
I mean, for sure. Sample analysis costs are generally a smaller proportion of our overall investment in time and resources to make everything else work. But we have some technologies now and some ways to do estimation, basically fancy regression-based techniques that I think can give us pretty good data without having to collect as many samples. So we might be able to say, let's have our sample budget, and that's not gonna save 50% of the costs that costs us to do discharge and everything like that, but it'll save us from taking trips out to the station and so forth, and it might be able to save us some cost. And my goal is to explore that, to let everybody understand that if we take fewer samples, that means more variability. We're not gonna be as accurate, and so we're gonna have to find that fine line between accuracy and cost that lead us into the future, because the smudgier every data point becomes, the more difficult it becomes to determine a trend, right? And that's what we want to see. So, long story short, you're looking at, I think maybe it's like 25K just in infrastructure investment for a new gauge, all the equipment. A sampler alone, a new sampler, it wasn't that long ago, they were like $6 to $7 grand. Now they're like $14,000 just for this refrigerated sampler.
Wow.
Yeah, so now you could say, you don't have to have a refrigerated sampler, you can go non-refrigerated. Well, if that's the case though, then we gotta take analytes that change, like dissolved P. You don't want dissolved P sample to be sitting there in the heat and stuff like that, you know, so yes.
Okay,
Gracie.
yeah. Well, thank
What
you.
was kind of the value of, you know, us getting another station or potentially investing in another station? Were we trying to just get more data to kind of back up the analysis that we're seeing in 20?
Well, I think in the TM deal, it was shown Nine Springs Creek is contributing a lot of phosphorus.
Yeah, you could do, I think Murphy's Creek might be kind of an interesting one, because so far it's fairly undeveloped, so you can kind of get some baseline, if you will, data. And then you can kind of see, as that watershed develops, if there's, any kind of trends associated with it.
Yeah, that would be a lower cost approach, would be to episodically going out there and monitoring, for a year at a time, every 5 years or something, and just kind of taking smaller snapshots and then relating that to the continuously collected data at Swan. So you have a relationship, so you can infer what is happening at Murphy's Creek over time.
And I know that Yahara Winds that they're sampling Murphy's Creek on a monthly basis. So that data is being collected. Because that data goes to MMST, the sewer district, and they analyze those samples for Yahara Winds.
Yep.
So we did that. I was doing that for Swan Creek until your station came in.
Yep.
So we do have that data information coming in.
Yeah, so, we
I
can
don't know
just
if
use.
you get a chance to see it,
No.
our winds data.
I could ask him for it. I can ask the lab for the data, but just to do stream flow annually, the way we have to do stream flow, it's right around 15K a year. But if we had stream flow and we had periodic water quality data like that, we could definitely do a decent job at estimating some loads there.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's something we can do without a full-blown monitoring station, because I don't know if that's worth the squeeze, quite frankly.
And then I just had one other question. So, I mean, I think we've been focusing our efforts as a commission on, leaf-free streets to try to keep phosphorus levels down in the urban areas. We've also done, pretty much every year we'll do an article on chloride, and do some type of outreach on that. So we've been a big supporter of that. So we've been focusing our efforts on chloride and phosphorus over the years. So do you feel like our focus is in the right spot for, outreach, or is there anything else that you kind of see that would be, maybe we could think about like shifting that a little bit?
I think what you mentioned there, I mean, you're basically putting conservation in the hands of every person, right? And those are things that are within the ability of each individual person to control. They can control if their leaves are hanging out in the street for a long time or whatever, and they can control how much salt they do or do not put on their driveway. So I think that's the exact right approach. Whether the sum of what those benefits could be is as big as what can be done from a rural perspective in rural conservation, or like water conservation. If everybody had a rain barrel in their backyard or front yard, I don't have a number on how much impact that can have, but I do know that having people educated makes a big difference. I've been involved with the Discovery Farms program since its inception in 1990, and I've worked with farmers looking at their runoff for years and years and years and years. I've taken those data to farmers, and I can tell you that educating farmers and telling them and putting the pieces together between what they do on their land and how that affects water quality downstream makes a huge difference, because if they have some institutional knowledge on how the world works and how they can affect it, then they can also affect change. So I do think that having a clientele and residents that are informed is really, really important.
Yeah. So I think we've done a decent job of that. What we maybe could do is work more with our agricultural and rural affairs.
But that's kind of out of your guys', that's out of
our realm.
That's the NRCS, that's Dane County, that's working with conservationists there.
But I mean, we
Outreach to local farmers.
We could do outreach to local farmers potentially, and like.
Yeah, as long as they're participants.
Just trying to, we're kind of in, trying to take this step back right now because we're kind of in the zone of doing our things each year, but trying to challenge us to think a little bit differently, in the context of things that we can do. So we do put on community outreach events, we could do one more focused for farmers, bring the right people in to kind of come and speak a little bit about it. Other people that are interested in the community could certainly all, come and listen in as well, but maybe that's a arena where we could potentially broaden our impact in that regard.
Yeah, if the message is everyone working together for the same goal, that's the message, right? Because a lot of times farmers feel like the finger is being pointed at them. At the same time, you can imagine being a farmer going back into the turn of the century, and then all of a sudden in the 1930s they're being told you got to keep all that sediment, all that soil on your land, and now in the 80s they're being told you got to keep that phosphorus on your land, and now the message is you got to keep all that water on your land. Their job is growing crops as efficiently, as effectively as they can. And so there's challenges that they face, and believe me, with the Yahara Winds program and the Yahara Pride Farms groups, they are all part of educational efforts and Outreach and Clean Lakes Alliance. And so I really do think that when it comes to water quality and the education of everyone in the watershed, I think Dane County would be really difficult to beat, especially there.
I know we had somebody from the Land Trust not too long ago talking to us. Who was that we had talking to us about all the land that was getting purchased around Dane County to try to, help out with the phosphorus levels.
Yeah.
Maybe I put that somewhere,
It's
but
probably Dane County, Kyle Manx or John Reed.
We just had the presentation from Mike Gilbertson with Yara Winds.
yeah,
Was that what
I think that was,
that
yeah,
was
Yara
from?
Winds, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time coming
So-
in.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so can we get a copy of the presentation?
Yeah,
So I can look at it.
Yeah, you can scooch that to me and then I'll send a PDF version of it because I can actually send it, it's small enough, I can send it via email. So,
Ben, is that something that could be put on the city's website, do you think?
Yeah, as long
yes, fine by me.
Okay, yeah.
Fine by me.
Yeah.
My presentations that I give to the Yara Winds groups typically goes on their website as well. It's kind of similar overlapping information, except with the exception of the deep dive that I did on Swan. I obviously don't talk about Swan in the Winds group.
All right.
Put links to those other.
Great.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm gonna boogie.
All right, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
yeah, thank you.
Sorry, thank you for your patience over there. I'm sorry we went long.
All right. Thanks again, Todd.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 4B, Strategic Urban Forestry Management Plan. I see that we have Anna on now. We also have Linda Brewer here that's prepared to speak. And then looks like we also have Richard Hauser as well. So I think the Trees Committee is represented. We've worked together before is that the official name of it?
Tree Advisory Committee. Very
Tree-
close, yeah, same thing.
So we worked together back, I believe, in 2021
I was thinking about that too.
and did the tree diversity event, kind of a combined event together. Went over to Quarry Hill Park and looked at the tree diversity out there. It was a really neat educational event on trees. I know I learned a lot at that event. That I still carry with me as I walk around the neighborhoods of Fitchburg. So that was very helpful. But maybe I'll pass it over. Who would like to start?
I wasn't prepared to speak through it, I think Rich probably way wrong.
Okay, Rich, I'll pass it over to you.
Wonderful. Can you hear me?
Just barely.
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Barely, okay.
Yes, I can hear you, Rich. I can hear you.
I'm going to take a look at you can hear me okay now?
Yeah,
Okay, awesome.
how much? Loud and clear.
Well, wonderful. In your packet, you received the draft urban forestry plan, and we have a public review open through February, I believe, 24th. And this process started about June of last year. We've had several public engagement events, open forum where we took some comments from the residents of the community. We had a public survey, a SWOT assessment of the program with 5 different groups, a review of the current operations from a tree inventory perspective, along with a canopy cover, looked at goals, and what you have in front of you when you get a chance to look and see how it interacts with your park's mission and goals and objectives is the state of affairs in the city of Fitchburg for the urban forestry program currently. We've ended up developing 5 goals. Within these goals, there's 16 objectives. And within these objectives, we've identified kind of a time frame and an effort. Many of the goals that have been developed through the process so far are actually pretty attainable. Some actually will be attained through the strategic plan that we developed. And just to give you a kind of some kudos to the current state of affairs, the inventory in Fitchburg is actually, from a national perspective, actually pretty model from tree diversity. I heard you talk about tree diversity earlier from a project in 2021. The urban forest program has not really dominated the public tree inventory by any one species. It actually has quite a few different species, genera, and family. So that's a plus, especially when considering he just went through a nice wave of emerald ash borer in Dane County, including Fitchburg. So having a diverse urban forest portfolio is wonderful. You also have a lot of cool things about just the population itself. Overall is very healthy. things such as age distribution. You have a model inventory of what we'd call an uneven age distribution in a forestry sense. You can imagine like a J, but do an inverse of it. So you've got many young trees that are there to replace trees as they age out. So a lot of nice things. You have a tree canopy that's been growing over the last decade. You're close to 25%. You have a goal that's 30% established in several different plans. That's actually very attainable if you keep up the operations. We did some benchmarking that you'll see in the plan, and I could share some details if you'd like on a screen. That'd be good, or?
Sure. Because I know in the plan is in the packet.
Yeah.
But you should be able to share your screen.
I'll do that for you.
Okay.
All right. So just to give you an idea right now, and hopefully you can see my screen now. It's actually available online also at the City of Fitchburg's Urban Forestry site, along with several different mechanisms, the Facebook website, along with a couple other, the parks website, along with community education, not community, not education. Hannah, help me out.
So I think, are you talking,
just another spot where you can, that just to let people know about the draft plan.
So we did a what we call a news flash, and it's in the community updates portion of the city website. Yeah.
All right, been a long day so far. I couldn't get that articulate thing out, so great people are on it. Yeah, so just give me an idea. I was giving kudos to the tree population, and when I was talking about uneven age distribution, it's kind of a model, but I love looking at these things because they tell you a story. Something happened about a decade ago. Oh yeah, or about 15 years ago. Oh yeah, the Great Recession, which had an impact on planting trees. So you can see these little details in distributions, which are kind of neat. This is what I was talking about. Is you've got a very diverse urban forest. You only have 2 tree species that actually are slightly above what we call kind of a green line, 5%. They're around 6%. When you start getting about 10, you start having concerns. So again, a lot of great things. Here's your current state of affairs with a tree canopy, where it's been growing over time. And as tree canopy grows, it covers other things like grass. It covers impervious surface, things like that. So a lot of neat things going out there. We looked at the current state of affairs with the ordinance, and actually a lot of good things that have been developed in the past. Not many things that we'd recommend to, from a governance perspective, to change, but we do provide a few details in there. This goes over some of the community engagement we have that have occurred along with the community survey. And we have completed benchmarking, and this is the state of affairs for the City of Fitchburg's forestry program. And we have a green arrow if we consider it above national means and Midwest means for the statistic. And things such as if it's a yellow arrow going sideways, this current state of affairs is consistent with the national and in some cases Midwest means if we have those details. And then if it's a down arrow, it's the current state of affairs in Fitchburg would be below, again, comparable peer, and we use peer population group of 25 to 50,000 people. And so one of the outcomes is, if you look from a staffing perspective, it's amazing the things that the program does accomplish with the staffing that they have. But it's amazing what they could probably do with if additional resources were available. So this just lays out some of the details, again, of the benchmarking, how Fitchburg compares, and then some recommendations. And then the meat of all strategic plans is getting into some of the details of recommendations. So here's a section, and when we went into the proposal of how we'd suggest to accomplish the strategic plan, rather than reinvent the wheel, let's look at existing city policy, or excuse me, plans. So we followed the comprehensive plan, and which had they use color coding. Not that the color coding is necessarily magic, but they have priorities of 1, 2, 3, and 4, or excuse me, 1, 2, 3, and then actions that are ongoing. So we use the same mechanism, the comprehensive plan, something you're using right now. So why use a different system? Because one of the goals is to integrate recommendations and see how they fit into other plans. Which, any questions on so far with me talking? Or on anything that I didn't point out you think is important?
Not so far. I
Okay.
think you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. Yeah, goal 1, enhance the city's urban forest by developing metrics to evaluate the process. So for several of these objectives, they're already completed through this plan. And then a second goal is integrate industry standards. So there's a lot of important ways to manage the urban forest. And Anna's a very literate urban forester, actually a very high level. And so, many of the standards that exist currently, for example, like construction around trees, she's in the process or has implemented things like that. But there are some things that are missing, details on the technical specifications in a written context, which would be very helpful. Certainly, as you're developing a mechanism that employees in the field can actually implement from just being told what to do. Implementing potentially some of the existing plans in play on how to manage woodlands in the city of Fitchburg. And you heard good reasons earlier with the state of affairs with hydrology through Swan Creek and other water systems in the city that trees certainly can have an impact by slowing the release of water across the landscape. And then integrating urban forestry into existing city and infrastructure goals. One of the reasons why we used a constant framework that's used in the comprehensive plan and the last goal, encourage and promote active community involvement in urban forestry planning and management. So what I would suggest with these goals as a committee, perhaps identify 1 or 2 people to review the plan to see how it fits with your goals within parks. And anything that perhaps we missed that you think would be worthy to accomplish through urban forestry. For example, shading of parks for human comfort, but also the same thing in park systems. At times, open space without trees is very important for just the goals and objectives for parks. And then the last thing I'll say, I guess, is a set of appendices that complement the plan. One, Appendix A. This is where I went through all the different plans that you have in the city that are in a current state. For example, a comprehensive plan. And I pulled out the different goals and objectives and policies that actually mention some component where urban forestry would have a stake in assisting with a comprehensive plan. So, for example, recreation. Improve the city's parks open space system by enhancing outdoor recreation, natural resources, and ecological stewardship. Certainly, urban forestry plays an important role with that. There's certainly objectives in here that deal with canopy cover and other things such as aesthetics that urban forestry certainly has a good role. So that's where the tie-in is with these existing plans of how urban forestry integrates with that. Having said that, to keep it short and sweet, it's more informational because I know you have a vested interest in this plan, and through Anna, she's mentioned that, is to say it's ready. We've got about 5 weeks potentially for others to take a look at this and provide comments. And for the comments, Anna set up just to have them emailed directly to her. In some regards, I hope her inbox is overflowing because that says people have looked at it. In other regards, I hope it's not overflowing because that minimizes her effort, or people that have read it actually are pleased with the recommendations have been forthcoming. But as part of that, for Anna to have things go to her email inbox just from a public records and retention perspective is the process we used. So having said all this, I'll turn it back to you all and any questions you have for us.
I've got,
Go ahead.
I've got a question. Objective 2.4 talks about creating a tree risk management policy. Can you explain that? I'm not exactly sure what a tree risk is.
Yeah, so in the good old wild days, we called trees a hazard tree program. And sometimes people talk about trees, it's a hazardous tree because it's in the process of failing. Or in some regards, people talk about dangerous trees, the same thing, a tree in the process of failing. Tree risk management just means evaluating a tree and looking at it for its potential risk for failing during a time period. And so right now, Anna and other people in the city do actually look at trees to evaluate their potential for failure.
Yep.
Certainly, yeah, when inspections occur in the process of pruning trees, they get evaluated them. But one thing that's lacking is actually a written policy that describes the process that's occurring right now, who's in charge, tree risk assessment systems that are used. For example, one of the standards is the International Society of Arboriculture Tree Risk Assessment Qualification, which Anna is a track qualified individual, which is a system that can be used and applied. That's an industry method. And so again, it's things are occurring right now, but it's just to quantify it from a written perspective to document and demonstrate what's occurring, which is a good thing.
And just to put it into context, I mean, right now we have a pretty good sense of the trees that we have that we need to keep an eye on, so to speak. And so we're running around looking at them, but it isn't really documented in a formal sense, and we really should be doing that. So if something happens to me or someone else can pick that up and kind of know what has been done and what should be done moving forward.
Yeah, and providing perspective, I'll turn it over to you in a second, is like Anna was mentioning, removed now would be trees that they could be a tree of a risk nature, or it could be a tree for some other reason doesn't fit an objective, but it's certainly a small percentage of the overall tree population when you look at just trees at the, I don't want to say the riskier side, but trees that have been identified from a management perspective. So, and I cut someone off.
No, just to follow up, Anna, if someone from the general public identifies, like they're hiking a trail or bicycling on the trail and they notice a dead tree overhanging the trail, that's a city trail, who do they contact?
Usually me.
Okay.
And if they contact someone else, it'll end up filtering to me.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Dr. Judson, I would encourage you to ask a question about trees that are valuable for placement around streams to help with runoff and pouring of phosphorus into water.
Okay. Yeah, so Anna, you were on for the presentation by Todd? Yeah, so I'd asked the question about, vegetation along waterways, et cetera, to try and, I guess, absorb some of the phosphorus.
Suck up phosphorus. Yep, absolutely. So I've worked with Ben, and I did work with Claudia as well. And if there is space on a stormwater facility, of course the leaf issue is you have to think about that. But if there's space in the stormwater facility for trees, we will go ahead and get them planted. For example, at the corner of Lacey and Sain, I always call it the Aurora. I think it's a different name now. There was room for a few trees there, so we put those in around that pond. We've done quite a bit of work on the ponds around, is it Quarry Hill? Yeah, or Swan Creek. It's actually Quarry Hill. Swan Creek is a different park. We've done a lot over there as well. So at any rate, yes, we definitely are very cognizant of trees' ability to improve water quality. They do need to be planted upstream from the pond, and they have to be in a situation where the leaves aren't going to fall into the water, because then you just end up cycling the nutrients that you're trying to absorb. But yes, we do take that very seriously, and we do work with the stormwater professionals as well to get as many trees as possible in the right spots to help with runoff.
And then the specific species of tree also is very important in those spots.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So some of our native trees do a wonderful job of pulling up phosphorus. We do, so we try to get, if we can get oak species, hackberry, sometimes maple, sometimes not, depends a little bit. But at any rate, if we can get some of those, our native hardwoods in those areas, if it's an appropriate place for them, that's what we try to use. Yeah, excellent point, Linda.
Seems like we create a cycle, though, that the trees take up the phosphorus, but then the leaves come back down again with phosphorus in them.
Well, yeah, so Anna just said, you know, planting them upstream so that they don't fall directly into the pond, which I was also gonna ask, you know, about planting trees in detention ponds to, you know, dry ponds to help dry them faster with the transpiration, but maybe that's not a good idea from a phosphorus perspective.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm obviously a forester. I'm not a stormwater person. So with those dry ponds, I don't know that we'd want tree roots in there or not. I'm suspecting probably not, but you know, that's something we can look into in the future. We did plant trees around the dry pond that's on Scarlet and it's right off of Osmondson. It's by the Stoner Prairie School. There was a dry pond put in, oh gosh, it's probably been 8 or 9 years ago now. And we did put quite a few trees around that one. But I needed to stay 15 feet from the bank. And I don't know if that was because of you know, how that soil is constructed. I'm not really sure. But we have put trees around dry ponds as well.
Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, I had a quick question, Anna. I know you guys have done a phenomenal job of identifying and dealing with all of the ash trees in the city and especially in the various neighborhoods. Yep. And either treating them yep. or taking them down. And I was just curious, based on kind of the tree diversity that you guys are focusing on, do you track, you know, what replacement trees you put in the neighborhoods? Or,
oh yeah, yes, it's all on our tree inventory. Yes, we do.
How do you guys determine like what you're putting in? Is it just kind of what you have on hand, or based on what you're putting in neighborhoods?
Well, we don't have any trees on hand. We do all of our planting but through contracting in the spring. And so, you know, we look at the diversity that's in that neighborhood, and it's a right tree, right place situation. And our neighborhoods, the soil and the terraces in our neighborhoods varies tremendously. And so where a lot of our ash trees are, we actually have some of the better terrace soils around the cities. We have more options, but we're trying to really do a good job in doing not just diversity across the city, but across different neighborhoods. So where our ash trees are coming out, we are trying different species sometimes in that neighborhood, depending, and just doing a whole, you know, a whole suite of different kinds of tree species that traditionally probably haven't been there. And like I said, some of our existing neighborhoods have some of the best soils, and we're able to do, you know, some different oak species. We're able to do quite a few of our, you know, our hackberry, our honey locust, our kind of go-tos that do well anywhere. We do throw some ginkgos here and there where there's going to be a lot of salt, and you know, and we just, you know, we really try. We're going for diversity is what we're going for, and it's all tracked in our tree inventory.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And that's why, as Anna was presenting, just to bring up, you have a wonderful GIS system that was developed in-house that shows the spatial distribution. And a map like this you could turn on different colors for ACE or Quarkus if you wanted to get kind of a spatial representation where diversity is in the city.
Great.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, I was thinking, does the plan consider energy savings from the shading buildings and reducing heat islands by any chance?
So, I mean, so I'll let Rich answer that, I guess.
In the current plan, no. It wasn't in the scope of work to actually do an ecological assessment. Yeah. However, I've got a data set, and it'll probably take me half a day of time, if that. So I told Anna that I'm going to do an assessment through a program called iTree, and that does give several different ecosystem benefits. One is actually amount of stormwater that's held by trees. Another is as you're getting to the energy savings. So it does various modeling that's been developed over the past 30 years with the Forest Service.
And I think one of our goals moving forward, I hope we can do this, is, you know, our tree inventory it's pretty up to date. I mean, it's changed a little bit in the last 2 months because I haven't been on the field just taking out the ash trees and putting in and you know, and we still have to plant this spring. But every tree that's been planted up till up till last fall is in there. Just some of the ash tree removals aren't in there. But if we change some of our data points in our how we're collecting them in our tree inventory, we should be able to in real time keep up with that iTree those iTree calculations. So that's one thing that we need to do, moving forward. So that's it's just we have that running in the background at all times.
Can I make a comment about that? So what I've learned over the years is that on the committee is that those pieces of data are also very important when Anna works to get contributions for new trees and other agencies and grants for writing grants for that. That having an inventory, accurate inventory, has been very important. So that's been a great asset, being able to have that, and we need to keep it up.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Linda. And just a real-time example, there was grant money available to plant trees in specific census blocks, and we were able to really take advantage of that opportunity because we had all that information in terms of what we had where, and it really served us well. And that led to, the canopy renovation in Southdale, that led to the canopy renovation in Maple Lawn Heights, which that all was grant money that we didn't have to pay for, which is significant.
Andy Slager here. I have a question in regards to green spaces.
Sure.
I haven't looked at the McGaw plan in a while, but is there a plan to daylight any traditionally open grown oaks and maybe make it more savanna-y and not necessarily trashy tree cover like its current state? Okay.
Yeah, that's goal 3 in this plan. I mean, and Andy, if you want to look at goal 3 in this particular plan, that'd be great. And if you want to throw a comment my way, that'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. We need to be doing that. And yes, that is one of our goals in this plan.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I had a question about tree diversity, and you got the 5, 10, 15 or 10, 20, 30 rule in there where you talk about species, genus, and family. Do we go higher than that? I feel like,
yes,
if you just say tree
we blow
to
it away.
someone, okay,
we blow it away.
There's deciduous, there's conifer, but I don't know that ginkgo or cedar or juniper fall into either of those categories. Like how far up the taxonomy ladder do we go?
Well,
Go ahead.
I mean, the sky's the limit, right? I mean, so we're going for diversity from a couple different angles, as Rich talked about. We're going for species diversity, obviously, but not, but we don't want 50 different kinds of oak trees. So we're also looking at from a genera standpoint and also a family standpoint. And if you look at our inventory, I think we're doing a really good job of trying to really, have a lot of different families out there, a lot of different genera out there, and also a lot of different species. We're also trying to get a lot of different age classes because we have a lot of young trees in our inventory. We're trying to, as you guys know, because we've worked with you on this, we're trying to preserve some of our older trees because one of the things that we need to just be cognizant of is, we need some of these, as Andy just suggested, we need some of these older oak trees, and we're not really managing for them actively, and we need to be doing that. So we're also looking at, retaining some of our older trees and landscape. We're also trying to capture different kinds of diversity from a planting space perspective. Like I mentioned before, we've been planting around dry ponds. We've been planting around some of our wet ponds as it's appropriate. We've also been looking at, okay, great, we've got some 4-foot terraces in the city. How do we capture that those areas? And the answer was, well, bare root nursery stock. We typically don't plant that, but in those areas we did, and we actually had 100% success rate. So we really are looking at diversity from 3 different perspectives, and it really is a cornerstone of what we're doing. And so we're blowing away those general rules of, that are kind of the baseline. We're blowing them away and really reaching a little bit higher.
Nice.
Does anyone else have any questions about tree diversity?
I'll just add a comment while someone's thinking. I did a study across the U.S. of diversity. There are very few, most programs, you can say the top 6 trees dominate about 60+% of the tree population. we're very few of, if you take the top 6, they represent about a quarter of the tree population. Fitchburg is actually at the perspective. So again, a national study I did 10 years ago. Very few cities are actually like the city of Fitchburg, which certainly Anna's had a huge contribution along with the tree advisory committee, but predecessors, this has been going on for several decades. So my kudos to actually the diversity you have in your tree population right now.
Yeah, thank you, Rich.
You're welcome.
And one thing Linda mentioned, when we get that grant money, and so we go, we kind of get a little bit, I don't want to say crazy, but we get a little bit creative, and we'll try trees that we haven't tried before because it's a grant situation. It's a little bit more flexible, and we feel like we can do that. So we really have done a lot of different kinds of trees, especially in the last handful of years here, which has been really fun.
And this plan looks really good, and thank you for having to get it pulled all together.
Oh yeah, well, it's definitely been a group effort. I really appreciate Rich's expertise and his ability to really get this put together. And thank you to Linda and all the other volunteers and all the volunteers on your committee as well that really worked really hard behind the scenes to get people at the different events and to volunteer at the tables and to do all of that. It's been really wonderful to work with everyone to get this put together.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I can speak to, it's been a pleasure to work with you guys when we did have our event in the past, and if there's something that you want to do again in the future, feel free to reach out to us. As we're trying to roll this out, happy to support that if we can with an event. We're trying to have events, around quarterly or quarterly to semi-annually, somewhere in there. So if there's an idea that you guys have for an event and we can kind of, support you, I think we had pretty good turnout at the event we did have together.
Absolutely, yeah.
Happy to do that, but appreciate everything that you guys do. Rich, I know you mentioned at one point that you wanted us to review this and provide any recommendations. Is this plan finalized, or were you still looking?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, public comment period.
Do we have anybody that would like to volunteer to read through it and provide some comments?
Yeah, you can put me down.
Okay, Andrew?
Awesome. Thank you, Andy.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you, Andy.
If the rest of us have questions, should we send them directly to Anna, or should we funnel them all through Andy?
I think if anybody else looks at it, we should funnel them to Andy, and then funnel kind of our collective comments or questions through Andy. So Andy will work to try to set up a timeline and then try to move on this pretty quickly to, over the next few weeks, get you any comments that we have. One thing that I thought of, and I don't know if it was part of the comparison, this is my last question, was related to the sustainability plan that just came out for the city of Fitchburg. I know there's so many plans that we try to tie in, and that was one of our challenges in pulling that together. Yeah. But I don't know if the sustainability plan was looked at all. I know that kind of came into the game a little bit later into 2025. Yeah.
No, I think you bring up a good point. I did share with Rich the green cover, I forget what they called it. The cover.
The tree canopy cover.
Yeah, all of
canopy.
Yep. So I shared that all with Rich as background materials, when we were first getting this off the ground.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it does have some consideration as to the sustainability elements that we're putting into it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, so this plan, the idea is, I kind of made up a word, vertically integrated, which means like it's supposed to like fit in with the park and open space plan, the sustainability plan, and all fitting in underneath the comp plan. And I call that vertical integration. So so that's kind of our goal.
All right.
And just to add one more note related to that, with the sustainability plan, where other plans existed, we wanted to build off of those and not step on toes. So when we Pale Blue Dot did conduct that ground cover and tree canopy study before we went into this process, and then we got a lot of feedback from Anna to make sure that what we were doing in the sustainability plan aligned with what she was already working towards. Yep. So it's not so much from my perspective that the strategic forestry management plan that they've been working on needed to look to the sustainability plan so much as long as it's consistent with the work she's already doing, then the sustainability plan is going to reflect that as well.
Is tied into
that's
her work.
her
Yeah,
plans are the
okay.
primary ones. The sustainability plan was kind of trying to look at those and build off of them.
Yeah.
Sounds
Right.
like they're
And so-
interconnected. Good.
Yeah, I think they'll fit together very well.
As a group, you just made your first contribution because I, in the appendix, I didn't actually bring in the different parts of the sustainability plan that deal with, just did a simple, search for forest in the plan. There's 24 cases. I'm going to pull those in the appendix, but yes, this is important stuff that this should vertically integrate into. So good job. Without even providing a document, I'll put this in. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rich.
I thought I had it perfect. I'm flawed.
There's a lot of data to pull in from. So, all right, well, thank you very much for your time and for your effort on this. This is great.
Thank you, it looks great.
Feel free to reach out whenever, guys.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, thank you for having us.
Yes,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time
Okay,
tonight.
all right. Okay, bye.
All right, moving on to resolution R 23225, authorizing Dane County services for stormwater and permit review and erosion control inspection in 2026. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll move to approve.
I second.
All right. Any discussion?
This is a yearly occurrence.
Yep, that's right. So Dane County works with the city to provide erosion control inspections. So that's the actual boots on the ground once a week, going to the sites, walking through them, seeing if there's any deficiencies. And then also the kind of administrative in-office review of stormwater management plans and erosion control plans. So that's basically what this resolution is authorizing approval of, that contract with Dane County. City's been working with them since I think 2017. So there's an existing intergovernmental agreement from 2017. So the cost for the county to perform these services gets billed back to the developer. So the county will bill the city, bills back to the developer. So it's worked out pretty well this year, or I guess I should say in 2025, the county conducted about 700, a little over 700 inspections over the course of the year. So when they'll do their inspections, they'll notify the site superintendent if there are any deficiencies. They'll notify city staff if there needs to be any kind of an enforcement action. That's essentially what this resolution is for.
So this is $35,000. I presume that's just like what we expect. It might be less, it might be more. And this is to pay for the wages, the salary or wages for the county staff.
Yep, exactly.
Does any portion of that get billed back to the developers, or is it just like fines and stuff? What are we billing back to developers?
Sure, so if the county goes out and does an inspection at a site, it takes them 1 hour, they'll bill the city 1 hour of their time. That hour then gets billed back to the developer. So because it's the developer's project, they're the one that's creating the need for this erosion control inspection. They eventually are responsible for paying the fee for the inspection.
So
it goes to the city, and the city basically just passes it through.
So what is the $35,000 in this resolution actually for?
Right, so the way we have to set up the pre-approvals is we do still have to kind of show, okay, there's $15,000 estimate that gets charged to the city for these services that gets billed back, even though the city's made whole. They still have to show that $15,000. And then the other piece of that is city projects where it doesn't get billed back. So, you know, for instance, like the hub, when they did erosion control inspections out there, that would be charged to the city, and the city, you know, there's no one to bill.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, the county is probably doing way more than $35,000 worth of work. It's just that most of it's being billed back to the developers.
So they're doing, you know, about $35,000 worth of work. It's just that the city only ends up paying for like half of that, or less really, like a third of that, or a quarter even.
Okay.
Is that on page 82, breakdown between the public and the private billing?
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of passing resolution R 232-25, authorizing Dane County services for stormwater and permanent review and erosion control inspection in 2026, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, hearing none, that has passed. Thank you, Ben. Moving on to agenda item 5A, finalizing the RCC annual report. So I think this probably will go pretty quickly. I had intended to look through our calendar of events one more time, you know, this month, and I realized that I didn't have that as part of the agenda, you know, with this, but I think we can go ahead and finalize the report now. I know people have been busy around the holidays, you know, maybe we can finalize our calendar of events, you know, at the February meeting. That'll be coming up in a month. And we'll have a little bit of a trigger, you know, just kind of send something out in between meetings just to kind of make sure people are taking a final look at that, and we can kind of finalize our strategic objectives for 2026 in February. But for today, does anybody have any final comments on the 2025 RCC annual report? I think we looked it over at the last meeting and people were feeling pretty good about it. Is there any other last minute additions or comments on that?
Look good to me. I think it took in things we talked about.
Yeah, if it's good, then I'll go ahead and put it up on the website and have it available to the public.
Okay.
Does that get shared with the alders?
I mean, if once it's up on the website, we can email the alders and the mayor and say, hey, here it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Who would do that? Would that be a Ben thing or you thing, or?
Either way.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right, I don't know that we need to vote on it if we all feel good about it. Then let's go ahead and finalize the report, and then either Bill or Ben will get it shared out with the council. It'll get posted on the website. And we will, you know, since we are running a little bit behind, it's probably, you know, I had allotted more so some time to talk about our objectives, but I think we'll save the time today and talk about that more at the next meeting, since we did have a couple speakers tonight.
Do the other commissions do an annual report?
No.
No, really?
All right, well, you know, we have it pretty down, you know, like, you did a great job kind of pulling all the details together, and I think you kind of keep a running total as we're going through the, you know, year.
It's different
It's
committees
nice to
and
have them.
commissions have different focus and do different things. So like TTC manages the transit plan, you know. We had a big hand in the sustainability plan, but not nearly as big as Pale Blue Dot or the Citizen Commission, really, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I think this commission does plenty of good work. More than average, I think.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So next item is our Fitchburg Star article schedule. Andrew, do you want to talk over that? I've got some things to add to it
Yeah, so I missed the last meeting.
Okay.
And I guess I reviewed Diana's article for this month, but I was unaware of anything else upcoming.
All right. Well, first off, congratulations to Diana on your first RCC article.
Hey.
Thank you.
I thought it read very well. You did a nice job. You kind of got, kind of the persuasive element into it. So nice job on your first article. I appreciate you squeezing that in around the holidays and for people that had the chance to review it, give feedback, and she has now worked through that process. So you're
I was very excited to share about my my own experience, and maybe someone that is reading can just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I read it in the actual hard copy version, but it should also be available online on the Fitchburg Star. So if you want to, go there, and if you wanted to share out your article with anybody else, feel free to do that. But thanks again for getting that put together at the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't know how long this feature has been here. I'm looking at the article on fitchburgstar.com, and there's a button I can push to listen to the article. So they got some text-to-speech thing.
Yeah.
It's about 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw it,
the other
and
day
there's
when
a picture there. Yeah, sorry. There's a picture there, and I was just like, who's that person? And I thought it was related to another article. Do you see the picture? I don't know.
I just assumed that was you from maybe 20 years ago. I don't know. They dug up they Googled your name and found a picture of you from long, long ago, or...
I've been writing articles all these years. I've never had my photo.
I think I sent a headshot.
Yeah, I was just, I didn't expect that. I thought that they're gonna put like some light bulbs or like, some insulation, whatever, I don't know. But then I saw a picture and I was like, oh, maybe it's related to another article. And then I was like reading, and then, oh no, okay. Guess.
The picture is actually you, right? The picture is actually you, right?
No, it's not me.
Is that you?
I don't know who's that person.
I didn't realize.
I have no idea.
I'll have to go back and look at that again.
I was looking at it, I'm like, man, I didn't think she looked quite like that. All right.
Editorial liberties, right?
Maybe it's just a Getty image.
So I guess I also, did I share it out? I did share it out. So I wrote one on food scrap, which is kind of one that we just have in the hopper, ready to go. I guess if anybody has any comments on that, I could share that. I shared it out around the holidays as well, so maybe it wouldn't hurt to share that back out right before we end up submitting that one. And then Diane Streck reached out to me, and she's volunteered to write an article on the new plastic film recycling that we can do out at the recycling site. So we could have her do that anytime. I could hold on to my article for a little while, but I think that gets us probably at least through the next couple of months right now. And we can kind of be thinking about what other articles we want and maybe set a couple ahead of that at the next meeting. So be thinking of potential articles that you might want to write this year. There'll be plenty of additional opportunities, but I think we're pretty much set through the month of March. So somebody would be needing to prepare one at the end of March to go in the April Star and
I know Ron recommended I write something about prescribed burning since I'm heavily involved with that. And I think March would be an appropriate date for that.
Okay.
Since burn season is usually, March and April, depending on the weather.
Yeah, we could do that in March. I think my food scrap drop off, could probably, we have some social media that's going out on that, so I put together 8 different social media posts and shared those with Ben, and I think at least the first one has gone out, but we have, and I think it did pretty well.
Yeah, like maybe the most interacted with post I've seen.
Really? So we have 8 of those posts, and we're gonna just kind of put a couple out a month over the next 4 months. But it kind of hits, the why of the food scrap, and kind of hits, all kinds of different angles at it. And so I feel like we could maybe put the article out in, either April or March. So if April or May, still would be a good time, because people, I think one of the things that I'm finding, just as a little bit of a discernment, is that I was talking to somebody else in Monona, and they can drive right up to theirs, and there is this little 50-foot gap where I gotta walk through the snow or something like that, and if I'm one of our dedicated cohorts that's doing this, I can only imagine that might attract others. I think the location is good, in terms of around so many multi-family buildings and central to those, and at a city park.
If we only had like a Friends of the Fitchburg Parks group that could volunteer to shovel the area in front of that.
You gotta walk through grass no matter what, it's not, so just a little something, I think it's doing well, every time I go, there's, a lot of food scrap, and I think Ben's gonna share something a little bit later. I noticed in the staff notes on how much weight has been collected so far.
It's over 2 tons.
It's a lot. So Andy, why don't you plan on that article for March then? So you would be trying to get that done at the end of February. Just to kind of reiterate, our game plan on these. So we want to be trying to get the draft out and giving our fellow commissioners about a week to look it over before we're trying to submit it. Either that last Friday, or certainly if it's an early Friday in the month. So in this case, January 2nd was okay, but know that we want to try to get that into the Star about a week before it's going to press, and so it went to press on January 9th. So just try to kind of keep those timelines in mind as you're trying to get an article out to share it.
Sounds good.
All right.
You mentioned the new recycling, or the plastic recycling bin. Is that thing a lot smaller than the old one? It feels really small.
It is smaller, yes.
It is.
I only was out there once.
I dropped some stuff off.
Completely full when I got there.
Yeah, we're
once it was full,
up in the frequency, collection frequency.
What was the frequency and what's it changing to?
I think they were doing Tuesday, Thursday, and now we're gonna try Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Wow.
Okay. Tuesday, Thursday, it fills up, just on the Wednesday sometimes. Wow. That's incredible.
Well, wait
Maybe
till
it was
plastic
Monday,
free
Thursday.
July, then it won't
Yeah.
fill
Oh,
up at
okay.
all.
All right, so how are we doing on time now?
5 minutes behind at least.
5 minutes behind? Yeah. Okay, so
I have a question, really quick.
go ahead.
Is that okay? How do we know how many people we reach with the newspaper? I wonder. I don't know. We have numbers or?
Well, it doesn't go out to all Fitchburg residents anymore. I don't know how many paper copies are going out. I mean, there's roughly 6,000 single-family homes in the city of Fitchburg. I don't know if it's going to every single-family home, and I don't know if there's any type of distribution happening in multifamily complexes at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think it goes to all the single-family homes. Yeah, so there's 6,500 or so single-family homes. I think most of them are getting the Star.
But not all of them.
But not all of them. And then, of course, there's the e-edition. I assume that is, you know, pretty popular. But yeah, I don't know exactly what they're.
But this issue had the solid waste schedule in it, which was nice.
Did, yeah.
So, you know, Diana, that would probably be a pretty good follow-up question. You know, you have the editor's name now, you know, you could just follow up and say thanks for sending the article over or publishing the article. Really appreciate it. You know, just kind of curious as to what the current distribution is, you know, readership, you know, that we're reaching. We're just trying to, you know, get an idea of how many people we're reaching with these articles. So, if you don't mind following up with him and trying to get, you know, some information, you could share it at the next meeting.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, agenda item 5C, 2026 RCC annual event planning and January Green Thursday film. So we do have a green film coming up on January 22nd. We have a flyer put together. Kim, I'll pass it over to you. You can kind of.
All right. So Ben does a fabulous job with flyers. The upcoming film for January 22nd at the Fitchburg Public Library is Feeding Tomorrow. It's a documentary film, and it basically talks about the modern food system, the individuals working to create a more sustainable and equitable future, and highlights challenges like ecosystem destruction, climate change, and health epidemics related to food. It starts, doors open at 5:45, film at 6, and we're asking all citizens to bring a refillable water bottle. We'll have a jug of water there, and then provide popcorn, and then a discussion following the film. So, seemed like a timely topic.
Did you bring copies by chance today?
I'll print them out.
I just printed out one, because I was like.
It was at 5:45.
Doors open at 5:45, film starts at 6. And then, just in terms of, I don't know, do you want us to talk about outreach in terms of outreach?
Yeah, so I think, you know, we did some outreach with the last one. I think we could have, you know, done a little better job. So I think we're trying to improve on that with this event. You know, I remember we had a couple of little hitches that we're trying to work through with the last one, but you know, Sharon, who's kind of another member of our community outreach subcommittee, isn't getting back until just a couple days before this. So, you know, that's why we wanted to get some flyers now. I know Ben's gonna post them around City Hall. But you know, if we got a couple, and if you have a place that you normally go and want to, you know, get one of those posted, you know, we'll have Sharon still probably, you know, get a few out, you know, just before, but, you know, we wanted to get some maybe out in the earlier part of this week, so they're up for at least a week. So that's part of our plan, but then, you know, I typically send out an email with, you know, giving people a blurb, a little bit of a marketing blurb if you want to do a social media post on it. It's just giving some basic event details. One thing that I thought might be handy is to maybe follow up with the library and see if they are going to make an event for it. I think they didn't post an event or really do any marketing of it. I was kind of counting on that.
Yeah, what I was planning to do was stop over tomorrow with a couple flyers.
Okay.
To see if they post the flyers and then just kind of see what they've done.
Yeah, I guess if they're not going to create the event, then we could give the information to Ben to work with Fitchburg social media folks and create an event for it. But, you know, I think might be good if the library makes an event out of it.
Yeah. Well, I know they were supposed to, so, but I don't, I mean, where is it usually, where's the event usually posted? Is it on the website?
I think they normally make like a
website.
Facebook event for it, potentially.
Okay.
So I don't know if they,
Well,
I looked last time and I didn't see one.
Okay, Well, I'll follow up with Rebecca and send over some of the social media blurbs and see if they'll go ahead and,
Yeah, I mean, if we can
that.
kind of help them out and give them,
yeah,
you know, the image
yeah.
right out of Canva.
Yeah, that's what I was planning to do.
Still enjoying that?
It's great. I didn't want to say that I just learned how to use it because you're doing such a great job.
It's user friendly.
But yeah, also if anyone has any access or people that run their neighborhood Facebook pages, that's something we used to always do with all of our commissioners, is making sure that, you know, these types of events get out on, you know, any Facebook pages. I know Chris always posts with Swan Creek, I always post with Quarry Hill. So if there are any other, you know, access that you have to your neighborhood, that would be great.
Yeah, and I think
Definitely you can share. I was also thinking that there are like a lot of CBOs that I have connection with that would love to maybe watch the movie. So if I can have the post, I will share it. If I can have flyers, I'll share it too.
Okay. Sounds good.
Kim, I can give you Wildwood South. I'm not on Facebook anymore,
Okay.
so I can't post.
Yeah, so if you have a contact there, yeah, then that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I mean, it can go on Nextdoor, it can go
Yeah,
on,
I'm putting it on Nextdoor.
you know, we typically, Phil will send out a, you know, email blast, you know, typically on in our e-news before these events. You know, getting it posted on the website, if we can do that as well, you know, just get it out there a little bit more, you know, and then hopefully these start to take, you know, I think one thing that maybe we'll add to the blurb real quick, when I read it over a second time, I thought it was looking pretty good, but you know, I think one of the problems maybe last time was the film was a little bit dated, but this is a 2024 film, correct?
Yeah, yep, this is a more recent film.
Okay.
And also, we did get the rest of the dates set, so I think if we can, one of the things that Rebecca was talking about is, you know, for January, we had to change the date because it fell, you know, over the holiday. But, you know, if we can kind of keep it on a regular basis, you know, date, then hopefully people then will get,
in a rhythm with it.
yeah. So, so I do have the rest of the dates. We are gonna have to skip May, but I have obviously January 22nd, March 5th, July 2nd, September 3rd, and November 5th is what we've got.
Okay. Okay. Very good, yeah.
Caught up on minutes, so.
All right, I think with the next meeting, we'll also get into more kind of annual event planning, so kind of with our annual strategic plan for what RCC is gonna focus in on 2026, we'll also do some brainstorming for what we think our annual event should be this year, so we'll have kind of these Green Thursday film events going on, but you know, we also will do events with speakers, and you know, I know that we were talking about the sustainability tour, so we can kind of bring that back to the table and try to plan out some of these things, when are they all gonna happen, you know, and try to spread it out so our workload isn't concentrated in the month of April or a particular month if we can. All right, I think that's all I have. Anybody have anything else on that before we close it out? Very good, moving on to agenda item 6, council update, Bill.
Yes, we didn't meet, RCC didn't meet in December, but also we had only the one meeting in December for common council, so we didn't, there were only two council meetings since our last RCC meeting. Fair amounts of stuff happened, so Jake Lepper is our new interim D4 council member. It was between him and Adam Guile, and Jake was chosen for the interim position. Both of them are on the ballot for April. So if you're in D4, you'll be able to vote for those guys. Also in the April election, Mayor Julia and somebody named Victoria LaBrosse are gonna be the choices for mayor. Joe Maldonado and Gabriella Gerhardt are running unopposed. Donald Dantzler will have an opponent, Jay Allen, former council member, former mayor. Don't forget, if you have yet to pay your property taxes, you have until January 31st. City portion of your taxes went up about $83 on the median home. Meanwhile, the school portion was up somewhere between $267 and $988, depending on which school district you're in. We've got a new EMS intergovernmental agreement starting tomorrow. So that just kind of shuffled the funding a little bit, changed the way we decide who pays how much. But it also changes who's on the EMS commission. So Fitchburg will have more representation, but we're also paying a larger share now. The newly opened hub on Traceway will be our city's 7th polling place. So neighborhood, North Fish Hatchery Road neighbors will not have to go nearly as far to vote from now on. Transit plan has been updated, and that'll be on apparently a 3-year update cycle after the upcoming major overhaul of the comprehensive plan, which will begin sometime this year. We've got a new medium-high residential zoning category now. So it used to be that anything over 9 units per acre was just high density residential. Now we've got medium high, which is like through 15 units per acre. So high density starts either at 15 or, above, above 15. We are in talks with neighboring districts, City of Verona and Village of Oregon, about the possibility of a joint fire and EMS district. So consolidating into a single district to cover multiple municipalities. This could help with efficiency and also potentially give us some innovation grant funding, at least temporarily, from the state. In development news, the juvenile correctional facility, that it's gonna go in near the current Oak Hill facility. That continues to move forward. If you go out on Lacey Road and then head north where it intersects with Sherrill, so that area west of Highway 14, west of Terravessa, but across 14, and then a little bit north of that, that's all got some planning now. That'll be more smart code. It'll be T4 on the north, which is primarily single family homes, and then T5 as you get closer to the to the major roadways there. Children's library is being renovated. That's moving forward. We've got another apartment building northwest of McKee and Fitchrona Road with about 300-ish units. So that's just across the street from Target to the north. That'll be probably another Texas wrap where they have structured parking in the middle, and then whatever floor you live on, that's the area, that's the floor you would park your car on. I guess of interest to the RCC, the flock camera contract for the camera off at the recycling drop-off area was not renewed. A lot of concerns over Flock's handling of data. So I guess not entirely sure what's gonna happen with that moving forward. Passed a resolution saying that all ribbon cuttings on city-owned land going forward are going to include a land acknowledgement with input from the Ho-Chunk Nation representatives. And the council will vote on the name for the new hub park at our January 27th meeting.
Very good. Thank you. All right, moving on to staff and commissioner updates. Ben, you want to start off with solid waste?
Yeah, so since starting on October 27th of last year, they've collected over 1,100 gallons, which is estimated to be around 4,200 pounds of food scraps at the Swan Creek Food Scrap Stop collection site. The city's also started collecting holiday string lights, so that's the cart up in the City Hall vestibule. A lot of people have been bringing those in the past few weeks. And yep, so as Bill mentioned, we were kind of looking into some potentially other options for site security at the drop-off site with the flock camera contract being terminated. And those are kind of the highlights for solid waste.
All right, stormwater.
For stormwater, we received bids from 4 contractors for a storm sewer televising project. So we're looking to televise storm sewer largely within roads that are planned to be resurfaced within the next few years. So we're not keeping any old or damaged pipe under freshly paved roadways. The 2025 stormwater utility facility maintenance project started towards the beginning of December last year. So that's the Quarry Hill Pond, which is pretty much dredged at this point. They just have to come back and do restoration. And then it's also the Techlands infiltration basin. So they just started mobilizing over there within the last few days. That work should all be wrapped up sometime in February. Had some quarterly meetings, met with Heartland Ecological regarding the 26 through 28 vegetation management contract. So there'll be a resolution with that coming in at the February meeting. Finished up some inspections ahead of the 2026 street resurfacing project. And then just kind of continued to work on some of our design projects that we've got in the hopper right now. So Schumett storm sewer upsizing and Yarmouth Greenway stream bank stabilization project were 2 that we were moving forward over the last couple of months.
Very good. And sustainability, Phil?
Yeah, there's the camera. Got a few items here. Back in November, Fitchburg got our Soul Smart designation upgraded from bronze to gold. So we'd actually just received the bronze rating when I started in this role over 6 years ago now. Over the next couple of years, I kind of realized it wasn't going to be too much work for us to move all the way from bronze up to gold because we had plenty of credit points. We just needed to get through a couple prerequisites. So worked with the planning and building inspection department to make those happen over the past year and a half or so. And there are questions about the future funding of Soul Smart, so it was nice to get this upgrade to gold in before that became a real issue. A bike and pedestrian plan is going to be voted on by Common Council. I'm not sure in the exact schedule. It was slated to come back to them tomorrow, but I'm not sure if they'll actually take a vote on it or if that's going to be delayed until the 27th. But hope to get that bike and pedestrian plan update approved this month, and then just need a few touch-ups and edits before getting it published on the website. Still working on that EV charging station at McKee Farms Park. I don't remember if this was already underway at the November meeting when I gave a staff update. I think it was, but we have been approved by the county as one of the recommended sites for level 2 EV charging group of 4 stations at the McKee Farms Park parking lot. This is through a federal grant from the Inflation Reduction Act. There are still some questions about whether that funding is going to actually be released by this administration, but so far, at least when things like this have gotten delays, if there has been a legal decision, it's gone in a way that suggests that we should be able to count on this funding. So we're still going through that process currently in a point of contract review with legal. When we get contracts hammered out and actually get things to the point of signing with the county, then we'll bring that to council, and my guess is it'll be referred out to RCC and probably Parks Commission as well. So you'll hear more about that when we get to that stage. Ron, hopefully you've noticed, I know this has been a long time coming, but we got those EV preferred parking signs out in front of the community center finally.
I saw that.
There are ongoing discussions about we're still having some ongoing discussions about improving the situation there in general, just because, as you've noted, one, the signs weren't there, and so the spots were often taken where anybody who's not using accessible parking could actually make use of the chargers. But you have to walk across that tree lawn, and it's fine when it's dry, but if it's muddy, if it's icy and snowy, it's a real hassle. So we're talking about what we can do to if there's a way to adjust how the parking spaces are laid out to make that a little bit more universally accessible charging. So we'll see how that where that winds up, but maybe something will be done this year. I hope we can make that a priority, but there's a lot of things going on. Another one that I didn't get into the packet is that so last year, after the sustainability conference in Dubuque, which, sidebar, unfortunately won't be happening this year due to all the various municipal funding concerns that are going on right now for sustainability. During and after that conference, I went through a Lead for Cities accelerator program that was hosted by the U.S. Green Building Council. USGBC also works with a corporate sponsor to do a Lead for Cities cohort every year, in which they offer free technical support and also provide financial assistance with applying for your municipality to get LEED designation. As a result of the LEED Accelerator Series last summer, Fitchburg actually has a 1-year organizational silver level membership with the U.S. Green Building Council. Those things, along with having just done some data collection for the sustainability plan a couple of years ago, all these stars are kind of aligned that I'm going to apply for Fitchburg to participate in this Lead for Cities cohort this year. I don't believe they accept everyone who applies. I'm not actually sure about that, but I don't have any reason, given other details, communications I've had with the organization, to believe that we wouldn't be approved. But I'll get working on that application this week, and if we're able to participate in that, then in the next 12 to 18 months, we would also be applying for LEED designation as a municipality. I know Middleton was the first municipality in Dane County that went through this a couple years ago, and they were designated gold. So wouldn't necessarily say I know how we would compare quantitatively to Middleton on a number of these categories, but it gives me hope that we would succeed at being certified as a LEED city. At what level, we'd have to go through the process to find out. But that's something I'll be kicking off in the next couple months, and because I'll be working with the planning department on the comprehensive plan update that's beginning, hopefully there will be a chance to kind of align some of the language and goals between those two things. So just those couple items.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Are there any other activities being conducted or monitored by other commissioners that they want to share now?
I have one, as long as we're talking about EV charging stations and stuff. The MPO Policy Board passed a resolution to the 2025-2029 Transportation Improvement Program to get EV charging stations at Quick Trip out on American Parkway north of the 90-151 interchange, as well as at the County N Town of Pleasant Springs Travel Plaza, about 14 miles south of the other one, just off of I-3990.
Okay. That would have come in handy for me yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
I've got a little story after the meeting.
I guess another couple of things, I'll just mention them now. The Beltline PEL study, was that environmental linkages, whatever that's the name of the study, that whatever that stands for. They are taking public comments until January 31st. As of right now, they've got in the plan for study to go to NEPA is a whole bunch of options in there, including adding lanes to the Beltline, which, you know, is adding lanes in 2025, maybe kind of, I liken that to, hey, we need more electricity, let's build a coal plant. But there's a lot of other good stuff in there too, though. They're, you know, reconnecting certain neighborhoods that were cut off when the Beltline was constructed initially, adding some overpasses for pedestrians and bikers, and at least one of them, they also want to, you know, make it a bigger overpass so that they can get bus service across the Beltline too. You can comment until January 31st, and it's easy enough to find. Just Google for Madison Beltline PEL and find the public input page.